Animal Nitro EAAs, the complete and comprehensive essential amino EAA complex. Animal Nitro uses ratios of specific and proven essential amino acids that are modeled after human muscle tissues.
All right, guys, this is Big on the Basics with Rob Hall here. Today we're gonna be doing bench press. And I'm gonna go through a few cues that I like to run through. That way I get set, get in the proper position, and get as much power as I can, and then press as much weight as possible. So, first thing I wanna do is when I get laid back on the bench here, is to get my hand placement where I want it. So for me, and to get the power output I'm looking for, my pinky is gonna be on the rings of the bar here. So for me to find out where my bench is gonna be optimal at, when I go down to press, I want my forearm to be vertical here, right there at the bottom of the chest. And that way I can get as much muscle recruitment as possible to press and extend as hard as possible. So here, pinky's gonna go on the ring for me here. I'm going to take the bar and wiggle it into place. And how to do that, I'm gonna put the bar here on the bottom of my palm and not here in the middle of my palm. If I do it here, my wrist is gonna bend backwards. So I want it on the bottom of my palm, so that way when I bench press and grab the bar, my knuckles are going to be facing the ceiling and I can get a straight wrist, straight forearm, and press it straight up and get as much power as possible. So do that here. I take my pinky on the rings, wiggle it here till the bar is set in the bottom of the palm. My thumb here is going to catch the bar and hold it in place. So it's gonna be really tight here. I'm hooking it into place. So I'm going to wrap my fingers around and then squeeze here. So my next step is to take my shoulder blades and the top of my shoulders, wiggle them into place. And when I say wiggle them into place, I'm taking my shoulders, my back. I'm going to squeeze them together, my upper back. And I want to stay in this place the entire time I'm doing my bench press. So I'm gonna be digging my traps more or less into the bench. So hand placement, fingers on the rings, wiggle the bar into place, squeeze here. And I'm going to wiggle this down. At the same time, I'm also gonna take my feet and tighten them down, get on my toes, and wiggle them down into place. And once I'm comfortable and set in, I'm going to lift the bar off the rack. My next step is to draw the bar down like I'm doing a low row, right? So what I mean by that, so if you're doing a low row, you're taking your elbows, drawing them backwards and squeezing your backs and your lat all together. So it's the same thing I'm gonna do with the bar. Hand placement, get in, feet tight, wiggle my shoulders into place, unrack. Next step, draw the bar down like you're doing a low row. Boom. Press up as hard as possible. So here again, hand placement, grab the bar, take a big breath into your chest, draw down like a low row, explode off the chest. So when I'm thinking about exploding off the chest, and I draw it down, I'm going to slightly angle it back towards the rack. So it's not gonna go straight up, it's gonna angle back slightly toward the rack. So when I draw it in, bring those elbows down tight, pull it in, and then as soon as I get that press command, going to extend it up with a slight angle towards the rack. So people's preference will be a little bit different. For a bigger guy like me, that's naturally gonna get you into a natural arch. For some people that are a little bit more flexible, when they get into bringing their feet back tight and then wiggling their shoulders back, they can get more of their abdominal up. That's gonna give you a shorter range of motion. So the idea with bench press is to have the shortest range of motion as possible. So some people like to do their hand grip out wide to do that effect. Other people don't have that kind of ability to get that flexible bar path with your arms out wide. when you have them in close, to mimic that same kind of short range of motion, you want to extend your chest up as high as possible. So when you get your big air in before you go, breathe it all into your chest, into your sternum. And that way, this will shorten the range of motion and distance. It'll also extend your arch, but more of a natural way without hyperextending your back or anything like that. So each lift into a powerlifting movement, you want to be as fast as possible. The slower you do a lift, the more energy you're going to expend. So if you're doing it into a meet, you want to make sure you're doing a lift as fast as possible so you can recover as fast as possible. So when you get to your lift, the anticipation of waiting for the press command might seem a little bit intimidating, but if you practice this in your training, when you're doing your pause bench press, it's not going to be a problem when you get to the meet. Some head judges may give you a longer wait before they get to the press command. And the only reason why they're doing that is because they're waiting for the bar to be still. If you're practicing the bar to be still, every time you're doing a bench press pause, you're not gonna have a problem when you get to the meet. So all your training movements, every repetition you're doing, is all practice for the meet. So if you do it sloppy all throughout your training, you're not gonna expect to be great once you get to the platform. You wanna be great every time you do a rep, every training day, every training week. It has to be almost perfect every time. That way, you're in control of what you're able to do on the platform, and the only part that's out of your control is the press command. So if you practice perfectly every time before you get there, you're not gonna have a problem once you get to the meet. All right, guys, so this is Big on the Basics Bench Press with Rob Hall. Thought this information was useful. Don't miss the Big on the Basics here. You can leave a comment down below. I'll come check it out, answer some of your questions that you have, and hope you guys thought it was a great video.